Yeah, so CBMC Newport Beach, mostly just an attending member. I go for the bacon and eggs, but the testimonies are pretty incredible. So I've had the opportunity to speak a couple of times at the club there, and just a wonderful set of guys. I mean, you've got a little bit of everything there, which is really fantastic because I talk about this, our work being our mission field, and that's really the heart of what CBMC is to become an ambassador in the marketplace. And, to be in a group like Newport Beach where they really reflect those values so well, it's very encouraging, You get to see guys that have been there, done that, guys that are there and doing it, and guys that are looking for how to do it. So it's a great mix of people, a lot of encouragement, a lot of building up. Operation Timothy's firing on all cylinders there, and, that's also pretty encouraging to be a part of.
Tell me a little bit about that. Operation Timothy, as far as when you say firing all cylinders, just kind of flesh that out for me. What does that mean to you?
To me, it's getting plugged in.
Talking about Operation Timothy and go from there.
Sure. Operation Timothy, number one, is incredible. I got into Operation Timothy. It took me a few months because it's a prayerful decision. First figuring out what the Paul and Timothy relationship really means. What that looks like, what are the benefits of it, and how the program is designed. So I ordered my Operation Timothy book, the big blue leather binder, without knowing who my Paul was going to be, because I really kind of wanted to just check it out. And I had it in the back of my mind, maybe I'll just do this on my own. And you take a quick glance at it, and it's, God answers you pretty quick and says, no, that's not how this is designed, to work. This is something that you go through with a Paul. And so I had identified quite a few, guys there in the breakfast meeting that I think are fantastic, that I would love to have as a Paul. But, without praying about it, I didn't want to make a decision. So it took me a couple of months of just praying and not getting an answer. And then one day, Randy Lindros, who's another commercial banker, in my field of work, came, and he's in the middle of chapter 3 with Mark Bundy at the part where he has to give his testimony. And so he came and gave his testimony one morning, and instantly I felt God put it on my heart, that's the guy. That was the guy that was supposed to be my Paul, and it was just without a doubt. I never met him before, never talked to him before, and he wasn't even 5 minutes into his testimony before it hit me, And I said, this is the guy. I didn't even know he was a banker at that point either. It was just, this is the guy. And I reached out to him the next day via link. I found him on LinkedIn, reached out to him via LinkedIn. He thought I was soliciting him for something. So he cautiously called me back, and I said, hey Randy, my name's Marcello. I'm a commercial banker just like you, and I heard your testimony, was really encouraged, and wanted to talk to you about Operation Timothy. Wondered if you'd speak with me about it. And instantly the guard went down. I mean, he was just ecstatic. So we met for lunch within the next couple of days, and our 1 hour lunch ended up being a 3 hour conversation that we didn't even get to really finish because we had to get back to work, about just our lives and where we were. And what I learned about Operation Timothy is how different it can be for each person while accomplishing the same task of building each other up. I've met other guys, and they're at the Newport Beach Club. There's people in all different stages of Operation Timothy, which when you see that, you know that it's not new. There's guys that have been in it for 3 or 4 years that are still working through it. There's guys that have been with it for a year, a few weeks, a couple months. I've been in it 2 years myself, and I'm just now into book 2. I think it's designed to be done in 16 weeks or something, but, you get in there with your Paul, and so much just comes out. And, like I said, everybody gets their different perspective, and it's a different experience for everybody. For us, when we met and started, it was, the road to Emmaus was what we discussed, was these, just two guys walking shoulder to shoulder on the path seeking Christ. That it's not a leader-led, follower kind of model, which is fine for some people, but for us, we're really discovering it together. I don't think we've even opened the leader guide in the process. So he's finishing up book 3, and I'm in the middle of book 2 with him, and we're still going over the material, and it's all brand new to him. He's getting a second look, so we get to explore it together, and I think that's fantastic. He's a little bit ahead of me in life with his family and career, and that's probably where the the Paul part comes in. But as for seeking Christ, I mean, we're just doing it together. So that's been my experience so far.
That's amazing. And as far as, have you guys looked at or used the electronic Operation Timothy, the whole new?
Yeah. We love our books. First off,
Yeah, sure.
it's great because we get to write down, and my Paul has a lot of fun going back through and seeing his notes when he was at the part that we're at. But we do use EOT, which has been, for me, mind-blowing. I mean, it's such a great tool. I actually linked up with one of my fraternity brothers from college who was going through a pretty rough patch in life. And he's back there in Dallas. And so I told him, look, this is something I'm going through. I really encourage you to pray about it and check it out yourself. And that was not long after EOT was introduced. I got him to sign up, and he went online and started working through EOT, and he's doing that currently. And, again, it's a different experience for everybody. So I'm not sure if we're the Paul and Timothy either, but more the side-by-side also. I'm kind of just guiding him through it. But, the encouragement that he's found and just the things that he's worked through while going through EOT have been pretty incredible. And the interactive material is awesome. I mean, I'm going back and watching all the videos and, working with the interactive slides that are on there. It's really adding a whole new dynamic to it.
Yeah, it really does, isn't it?
Yeah.
That ability to kind of just go through. And even, I've started going through it with my boys, and as, I put those notes in there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking, what's it going to be like when I'm 60, 65 years old?
Yeah.
To come back and that stuff's still there.
Yeah, it's
Come
going to
back
be cool.
with them
Yeah.
and to show their kids, it's,
Yeah, and that's kind of how it is with me and Randy.
Right.
He's going back and he's at a part of his book that he hasn't been in a year and a half, and he's going back and saying, I wonder what I was thinking here. I wonder what was going on in life that had me answer like this, and my answer might be a little bit different than his, and he's writing new answers down, so it's pretty neat. It's a lot of fun to see that. And I think the same thing. What's this going to look like in 20 years? How will I answer these same questions, And you quickly realize, not far into the first book, that Operation Timothy really doesn't come to an end. It's a constant growth, And I see that with Randy as he goes back through it with me. He's growing almost all over again, going back through it, learning these things and applying them to his life as it is today, as opposed to how it was a year and a half ago. So it's pretty neat. Definitely a special recipe.
Yeah. So you're involved with the group there in Newport Beach. You're seeing, is it pretty much a holistic acceptance of Operation Timothy? Everyone's very, very engaged with Operation Timothy, or do you see it kind of being a little more sporadic?
I think it's a huge focus for us. I don't know if maybe an hour goes by that we don't bring it up. It seems to be a part of every Thursday morning. It's brought up in one way or another. I mean, there's a group of guys that actually meet there on Thursday morning for Operation Timothy. So as soon as our Thursday morning meeting is up, they just step out in the lobby and get right into it every week. So it's happening all the time, and it's just really neat to see that, that push and see people at different stages. I mean, there's guys, there's Bill Perry is part of our group, and he's been through Operation Timothy dozens of times with dozens of different Timothys, and he's always amazed by the material. So it's neat to see that, and to say, wow, well, I'm only on my first time, and to think that it's still going to be exciting after a dozen or so times is pretty awesome. And that's just proof of God's work, and God's word is timeless, and there's always fruit to be picked from it. That's kind of the secret sauce of it, I think, is, the Timothy provides. You go into it thinking that the Timothy is just going to be pulling from the Paul, and then when you actually get into it, it's a two-way street. I mean, that's what's pretty amazing. I remember when we started, Randy said, well, you're a pretty mature Christian. You've been saved for, about 10 years, and, you go to church, and you seem to know the Word. If you want to, we can start in book 2. And I was like, well, I paid money for the whole thing, so let's start in the beginning, and check it out. And he said, all right, well, it's pretty basic in the beginning. You'll probably know all the answers, but let's, if that's what you want to do, let's do it. And he was right. It was very basic, because the beginning is designed to take somebody who's never been, presented with the Word before, and take him up to what does it mean, to be saved through Jesus Christ. I mean, that's the end of the first book. As basic as it was, I think anybody in any part of their Christian walk should get into that. I mean, because that foundation is, you start to touch on basic theology that you may have forgotten or just not thought about in a long time. And Christ teaches us that childlike faith is the most effective. And when you get back to the basics of what we believe, it's pretty empowering. And so I really enjoyed the first book. So that's why we're just now getting into book 2. It took us a year to get through the basic first book. I don't even know how long it's going to take for book 2. So I might get through Operation Timothy 3 times in my life if it's going to take this long.
And that's good. I mean, that's not a bad thing at all.
No, not at all. Yeah, we didn't even realize how long we've been doing it. I mean, we meet once a week, and then we look back and say, wow, it's been a year and a half. We started this last March. How did time fly so fast? We've had 60 meetings. Yeah, some days we'll get through 3 or 4 pages. Or we'll finish a chapter. Other days we might get through the first sentence, and it may have a verse, or there may be some material like there's some incredible quotes in there from Christians and non-Christians alike, which is really, really neat to see what other people say. And we might just unpack something like that, and we'll spend an hour and a half talking about a C.S. Lewis quote, for example, and before we know it, our time's gone and we haven't done any question and answer. But that's what it is. That's Operation Timothy. We leave that meeting together. We close in prayer and we leave that much closer to God as far as what our knowledge and how our heart is working. It's awesome. Yeah, so I started with the bank about 7 years ago or so, and it was pretty quick from the beginning. I was, I worked for a couple big banks, and in the beginning, I got up to speed pretty fast. I became one of the top performers in the country at both banks, making a ton of money. I was working in a branch, and really, if you were to write down what a successful banker should look like and what a successful banker should do, I probably could have written the manual on it. I was in the top 3%, of the country out of 16,000 bankers. And really, if I would write it down on paper, everything checks out. I had a young family. We were just expecting our first child, I was making a lot of great money at work, but I just wasn't fulfilled. I was going to work and doing everything right, and I just didn't feel the satisfaction in what I was doing. I just wasn't fulfilled. So I'd go home and I'd talk to my wife and say, I don't get it. Maybe I'm not supposed to be a banker. Maybe I'm supposed to do something else. But, to me, logically, I should be a banker. I like helping people with their finances. I like wearing a suit. I like showing up to work, and working with finances every day. That's a joy for me. Why am I not fulfilled by that? And so I found myself with this big question mark. It was this big riddle to solve. I was working in Seal Beach at the time, so I'd usually take my lunch down to the pier and, sit there, and it's only 2 blocks from where my office was, and I'd usually sit there and listen to some talk radio and watch the waves and, eat my sandwich. And one day I went down there and did that. I took my Bible with me, and I just, I didn't even get into my lunch, and I just said to God, you know what, I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand, why my work seems so meaningless to me. I don't know if you just want to uproot me and send me to the middle of Africa as a missionary. I don't understand what's going on. Please answer me, because I can't take another day of this. And I've heard God speak to me multiple times, just that quiet voice, that prompt, Never in my life has it been so clear as it was that day, where God told me, I need you to stay where you are. That's your mission field. I need you to do my work there. And I was so fed up with not being fulfilled at work that I just gave it all over to him. I said, fine, you take the wheel, because if I lose my job for this, fine, because I'm not happy anyway. So I'm just going to let you take control. You tell me what I'm going to do every day. You present the opportunities, and I won't say no when you prompt me. That's my commitment. And from that day on, it was like it was like I was on a rocket ship. I mean, I found myself learning how to talk with customers and engage clients and coworkers in a secular work environment that seems to be tolerant these days of everything except a Christian. I found myself engaging clients with the Word, offering prayer for people, for clients, for coworkers, and never once did I find myself in a compromised situation. God always provided if the opportunity presented itself and I acted like God would prompt me to. it always turned out fine. And I was really surprised. I was almost certain the first time I witnessed to somebody, a random customer that I don't know at my desk, I was almost certain I would find myself on the front page of the local newspaper and fired from my job, dragged through the streets. Just these wild ideas, but I was so fed up with not being fulfilled, it didn't matter to me. And none of that happened. God provided, and He gave me some wonderful opportunities, and out of that, my career just launched. I ended up going into our business bank, so out of the branch, working in the corporate headquarters here in Orange County, and with that, God put me, I went from dealing with small business customers, mom and pop type shops, which are a lot of fun in the branch, to working with these multi-million-dollar corporations and talking to CEOs and CFOs that, when you meet with them, these are guys that could literally write a check for anything that they want in this world. Guys that own yachts and jets and cars and houses in Newport Beach, California, overlooking the water. Just some of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life. But when you meet these guys and girls, they're just hollow. There's just nothing there. It's like they're seeking and they can't find it. They get the newest and latest, greatest, the reddest Ferrari they can find every year, and they're just angry at life, or they're angry at themselves, or you can't have a pleasant conversation because there's just something missing. And I quickly realized that the work that God put me through at the branch level, where I would run into the occasional Christian and have that great interaction, He put me into this world where I feel like I'm in the middle of a desert. I don't even work with another Christian, much less run into, clients that are believers. And, I realized that when I listened to His work there, He trusted me with a little and He gave me a lot. And my mission field then expanded into these worlds of $50 lunches and meeting clients, on their yacht at the dock to get a signature, where I may be the only opportunity they get to see what, a God-fearing Christian actually looks like, or somebody, I might be the only person they get to meet that will actually pray for them or pray with them, and that's a huge responsibility. So, God's put me into this kind of orbit of a mission field where I just get to run into these incredible people that just, I don't think they would find it any other way. They're just not out there where they'd be running into your everyday, Christian on the street. They're just not running in those circles. And so, having a believing commercial banker in their life might be the only opportunity they have. So being charged with that has been pretty interesting, and God still provides. So it's been incredible.
That is amazing. Man, thanks for sharing that. That is really good and very powerful and so many people I think need to hear that. They hear it, but they need to absorb it. They need to actually say, okay, as this guy has said, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And hang it all, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, you've got to. I think you have to get to that point where you just realize.
Flip that switch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was willing. You hear it where people are like, "I'm willing to put it all on the line." You hear it with these missionaries that give up their, cush lives here and go and middle of Africa or South America, living with the bugs, and because you get to the point where you're just tired of not fulfilling your life's purpose. Your life's purpose doesn't have to be, moving to the middle of some third world country necessarily. It may be. But there's a mission field here in our backyard. We have so many people that just don't hear it. And you have to get to that point where you just realize that God is all-powerful. It doesn't matter. He doesn't check out between 9 to 5. He's there with you all day, every day. And when you just give it over to Him like that, He works in amazing ways. And, you have to get to that point where you just realize at the end of my life, God isn't going to ask me when I'm giving an account of my life. He's not going to ask me to bring my bank statements. He's not going to ask me, how many promotions did you get at work, or, what goals did you hit at work? No, but He's going to ask me, in those situations where I prompted you to act for my will, why did you or why did you not listen? He doesn't care how much money I have in the bank account when I get there, because all of that gets left behind, but He's going to care very much about what I did with what He trusted me with, and if I'm not acting on those prompts, or I'm not doing what He says, that's not something that I really want to answer for, but I'm going to have to. So I think when I realized that, it really changed my whole perspective on work. I realized, if I lose my job for this, it's God's will. I will never be out of His grasp. I'm never going to be free falling. And I realized if I leave this bank because of that, God has something else in store. Who knows what it'll be, but it'll be of His will. And really the safest place you can ever be is right in the middle of His will. Because I've been in the middle of my will, and that's not that great. A lot of times it leads to trouble. So yeah, that was really my life-changing moment. I mean, that was, when I realized what I was supposed to be doing.
Man, that's incredible. That is amazing.
But with that, following that, by the way, that's what brought me to CBMC.
Sure.
I started on this whole, marketplace missionary thing without knowing about CBMC at all. I had no idea they existed because it just wasn't something I ever looked into. And it hit me that I didn't work with any other believers. I didn't have any believing customers. I figured I cannot be the only Christian in the marketplace with this idea. There has to be other men. It was important to me that I found men. It's a man and a woman's job in the marketplace, but I really wanted to be among other men because we understand a lot of our own struggles and thought processes, which is really great. And I said, there's got to be other men in the marketplace that, are trying to do what I'm doing, And so I simply Google searched Christian businessmen, and Christian Businessman's Connection came up. And that was pretty neat because I was in Seal Beach at the time and there wasn't a chapter anywhere around me. And so I couldn't attend any of the regular meetings. But 3 months after that, I got my promotion to headquarters here in Orange County, where there's the Newport Beach chapter meets literally a half a mile away from my office. And so 3 months after I made that commitment to Christ to just turn my work over to Him, He moves me half a mile away from the Newport Beach group. And I've been attending Thursday mornings there ever since. I've been to, Fridays in Orange also. I visited a few other clubs, but, He moved me half out of anywhere in the county He could have moved me to. It was almost like I said, you know what, God, this is all You. I'll do whatever You say. And then I just requested a resource. God, can You put me with other like-minded men? And not only did He reveal it to me on the internet through a Google search, but He moved me a half a mile away from really one of the greatest groups of men I've ever met. Guys that have been there doing that. I mean, if what we do was equivalent to the armed forces in any way, CBMC is almost like the Navy SEALs of, being a marketplace ambassador. I mean, we learn how to start those conversations. I learned very quickly there's an art of conversation to witnessing. I can't walk in the office holding my Bible above my head because it wouldn't work for what God wants me to do. But it may be something as simple as talking to somebody on a Monday morning, and when they ask you what you did over the weekend, you say, well, I watched some sports, I hung out with the family, I went to church on Sunday, the preacher had a great message, and then took a nap, and now I'm here at work. And maybe they bite onto that preacher part, oh, what was the message about? What did the preacher say, Or maybe they say, oh, you go to church? Tell me about that, Anything that starts that conversation, but you just have to open up those doors for it to happen. And that's what we learn a lot about in CBMC, finding men that are doing exactly that on a regular basis. The format is ever-changing. When I say acting on God's prompts, God prompts in all situations. And I really think that men like Mark Bundy and his dad Ron, who runs the group, they're really good about listening to God and what needs to happen. So we do everything from hearing somebody's testimony, like Daniel's story, which is incredible, to hearing guys in the group's testimony, to having, sometimes we have Thursday morning sessions where the whole session is just open prayer for the group, and we'll just sit there and pray for each other. And, we're just always seeking God at all times. It's not this monotonous format where we have to do the same thing every Thursday, irregardless of what God may be prompting us to do. But every Thursday it's, whatever God's presented, whether it's a guest speaker, whether it's, we just need to recenter and refocus on prayer because, our three-part, three-legged stool?
Oh, yeah.
Prayer, evangelism, and discipleship. And so we try and have meetings on those three topics on a regular basis. And it's neat. You get to hear from so many different men that are in so many different situations, talking about so many different things that, it's like this never-ending thriller series of just, what do I get to hear this week? And numbers stay up. I think we stay at a consistent 30 to 40 guys on any given Monday, on any given Thursday. And I'll tell you, the bacon and eggs aren't that good there. So it's definitely for the word. But I'd say that's what keeps us on fire, is the changing environment, but always staying along that that three-legged stool line, you know, something on prayer, evangelism, or discipleship.
Sure.
Yeah, Mark would probably know, but I know the guys around here have been going for a while. I was just speaking to another member of the Newport group, Steve Garrison,
Yeah.
and he started attending in 1978.
Okay.
He just told me that yesterday, so I would assume they've been around at least that long.
Wow.
But there's a lot of men that we run into in Orange County that, you know, I've brought it up a couple of times because I feel like I found this, you know, this diamond in the rough kind of thing, you know, like, why don't more people know about this? And when I do run into that, you know, Christian man in the marketplace, you know, first thing I tell them is, CBMC, you've got to come. You know, I carry the little invitation cards in my briefcase, and, you know, I've run into a few people here and there that say, oh, my dad used to go to that, you know, or my uncle used to do that. They're still around, you know, how do I find them, you know? And it's pretty neat that you kind of see that legacy out there. And just with this age of technology where everything's so fast-paced, seeing CBMC, you know, streamline their online presence has been pretty awesome, because now I can refer people to the CBMC website, you know, or the CBMC Orange County website even, and, you know, it's just so easy for them to get plugged in from there. And so I see a lot of that out there. But it seems like they've been going a while when you run into people that say their dad or their uncle or
Right.
whoever went, you know.